Adults 4, Unit 3B, articles. Articles are a or an, the, and sometimes no article. This can be a little confusing because the rules are different in English and in Spanish. Let's take a look. Examples. I saw an old man with a dog. So there is one old man and one dog. An, because the vowel O, and a, where there is no vowel. We use a or an with singular countable nouns like men and dogs. We use a the first time we mention a thing or a person. So this is an old man with a dog because there are many different men and many different dogs. Also, we use a when you say something, what something is or what somebody does. For example, it's a nice house, she's a lawyer. We also use a in exclamations with what. For example, what an awful day, what a beautiful day. And we use a with expressions of frequency. I have classes 3 times a week. So how many times a week do you have classes? Maybe one, two, three, four. We use the for different situations. Let's take a look. I saw an old man with a dog, so still the same example, but now the dog was barking. Which dog? The dog that I was talking about in the first sentence. It's the same dog. So to show that it is the same dog, we use the, not a. We use it when we talk about something we've already mentioned. My father opened the door. When it's clear what we're referring to, in this example, the door, then it's the, not a. We know the door that we are focused on. So it's like we've already mentioned it, even though we haven't. It's so clear what we're referring to. The children are at school, right? We know which children we are talking about. 3, the moon goes around the earth. Now, for us, there is only one moon and only one earth. So naturally, we use the. There is only one possible moon. So it's very clear. I'm going to the movies tonight. So we use the with places in town, like movies and a theater. I'm going to the hospital. I'm going to the plaza, for example. And finally, we use the with superlatives. It's the best restaurant in town. It's the most beautiful place I have visited. But sometimes we don't use a and we don't use the. This is no article, and here's where things are a bit different to Spanish. Example, women usually talk more than men, right? In Spanish, you want to say the women usually talk more than the men, right? But in English, we don't do that. That's not natural because when we are speaking in general with plural and uncountable nouns, we're not going to use an article. So compare, I love flowers, which is flowers in general, with I love the flowers in my garden, which are specific flowers. So now I do need the. Love is more important than money, right? Not the love is more important than the money. No, love is more important than money. We are speaking generally, not about specific love or specific money, but generally. 2, she's not at home today. So with some nouns, home, work, and school, We don't use the. It's not necessary. Um, so she's not at home today. I get back from work at 5:30. Three, I never have breakfast. So meals, days, and months in English do not need an article. It's not the breakfast, the dinner, the lunch, just breakfast, dinner, lunch. The same with days and the same with months. And finally, before next and last, we don't use an article either. So it's not see you the next Friday, it's just see you next Friday. I saw him the last week? No, I saw him last week. No the. I see the temptation in many Spanish speaking students to say, I saw him the last week. No, I saw him last week. Nothing more than that. Okay, let's practice. We have part A and part B here. In part A, we circle the correct answers. For example, I love weddings. Generally, no article. Not I love the weddings. That does not mean anything in English. Pause and complete 10 questions. Okay, here we go. Number one, Jess is a nurse in a hospital. The hospital is far from her house. The first one because we're saying what somebody does, and the second one is the because we have already mentioned the hospital in the first sentence. It's now a specific hospital. Number two, what a horrible day. There is only one possible day here, so it's no, that's a bad example. It's a horrible yeah. What a horrible day. It's one day. It's we'll have to take our picnic in the car. We know which car we're talking about, right? A day can be many possible days. The car can only be one specific car. You know what car I'm talking about. Number three, my wife likes love stories generally, but I prefer war movies generally. Or we go to the theater because there's probably only one, so it's the most important one in the city, about once a month. This is an adverb of frequency, expression of frequency, once a month, one time a month. Five, I'm having dinner, which is a meal, no article for meals, with some friends next Friday. Next Friday, no articles. Six, my boyfriend is a chef. I think he's the best cook in the world. The first one because we're talking about a profession. The second one because it's a superlative. Seven, I'm not sure if I closed the windows, specific windows, before I left home this morning. Home is an exception where there is no article, like work, for example. In general, I like dogs. I'm speaking generally about some dogs, but I don't like the dogs that live next door to me. See how in the second example, I'm talking about specific dogs, the dogs. But in the first example, I talk about dogs generally. I like dogs. Nine, I go to school. Remember, that's an exception, like home and work, late every day last week. Never the last week in English. And 10, I think happiness, generally, is more important than success, generally. No article is necessary. In part B, we complete with a or an, the or nothing to show that there is no article here. For example, A, we're lost. Let's stop and buy a map. B, no need. I'll put the address in the GPS. Pause and complete 9 questions. Okay, let's check. Number 1, how often do you go to the gym? The gym is considered one of those places where it's a specific one that everybody knows about. So we use it's more natural, even though there is logical justification because now there are gyms everywhere. But you only ever go to one gym, probably. So how often do you go to the gym? About 3 times a week, but I never go on Fridays with no article. Give the laptop just a second to catch up. Number two, what time does the train leave? Why? Because we are talking about a specific train. This sentence is only useful if we know exactly the train that we're talking about. So in 10 minutes, can you give me a ride to the station? Rides are not specific, but the station is. Number three, what a beautiful dress. There are many dresses. This is one dress. B, thanks. I bought it on sale. There is no article necessary here. Last month. No article necessary here either. Number four, what's the most interesting place to visit in your town? Here we have a superlative, so the most. Part B, probably the museum. A specific place in town. I know which museum I am talking about, and so do you. It's the oldest building in town. Again, superlative with the. Number five, what should we do next weekend? Let's invite some friends for lunch. We could eat outside in the yard. Next weekend with no article. Lunch with no article. But the yard is specific, so we need the. Number six, do you like dogs? Not really. I prefer cats. I think they're the best pets. So we are talking about dogs and we're talking about cats generally, but we're talking about pets specifically because we're using the superlative, the best pets. Number seven, is your mom a housewife? So housewife is a position, so we use a. Similar to no, she's a teacher. She's always tired when she gets home from work. Work has no article like home and school. 8. Have you ever had a problem in your relationship? Yes, but we got over the problem and we got married last year. So in the first example, it's a problem because we are introducing it to the conversation. But now, in the second sentence, we've already mentioned the problem. It's now specific to us. So it's the problem. And we got married last year. No article with last. Finally, number 9, when is the meeting? Yes, there are many possible meetings, but you and I know which meeting, which specific meeting we are talking about. So it's a specific meeting. B, they've changed the date. It's next Tuesday now. The meeting has a specific date, changed the date. And similar to last, next has no article. Okay, hopefully that's clear for you and see you in the next